Hey, welcome back. The number of houses for sale in Florida this June just increased the highest level for any month going back to March of 2019. So in other words, there's approximately a 5.5 year high regarding housing inventory in Florida, which is pretty remarkable because pending home sales and closed home sales are at the lowest levels for the month of June, going back to at least June of 2016. I have a lot to share in today's video. This video is based on single family houses in the state of Florida. I'm going to cover home prices, housing inventory, sales, and much, much more. So let's go ahead and dive right in. I have a lot to share. This is a report from the Florida Realtors that was just announced a couple of days ago. Regarding the number of closed home sales, that decreased by 11.1%. There was just over 23,000 closed home sales of single family houses in Florida. And that again is the fewest amount of closed home sales for the month of June, going back to at least, keywords there, at least June of 2016, as far back as their public data goes. Again, this is very significant given that we have basically a glut of houses for sale right now. Also, by the way, this 11.1% decrease in closed home sales compared to 1 year ago is the biggest year-over-year decrease in at least the last 12 months as well. Also, just to give you guys some context regarding this number here at 23,000 closed home sales, look at 2021. Back then, there was approximately 35,000 closed home sales. Now there's less than 10,000 less than that right now. And of course, the reason why we had a big increase in the number of sales back in 2021 because back then average mortgage rates were around 3%, and right now they're around 6.5 to around 7%. On top of that, home insurance rates were much less back in 2021 than the rates we're seeing today. Let's also have a look at the number of cash sales. These are closed transactions in which the buyer did not use a loan to buy a house. They used all cash. That fell by nearly 15% compared to June of 2023, approximately 6,300 cash sales for the month. Looking at the percentage of cash sales, that was around 27.2%, which means that approximately 1/3 of all closed home sales came from a cash buyer. That is down by 3.9% year over year. Something I noticed here is that the share right now at 27.2% has been coming down for the past 2 consecutive months in a row, which is likely due to the fact that mortgage rates have been decreasing as well, which is giving cash buyers less incentive to buy houses using all cash, of course. Looking at this chart below here, back in 2021, let's look at basically June of that year. The share of cash transactions was actually less than 20%. Now it's at 27%. So because rates decreased so much back in March of 2020 and also in April, that's why they had a lack of transactions that were cash sales because borrowing money was so cheap back then. Okay, let's change gears slightly here and talk about the median sale price. These are based on closed home sales for the month of June. That was at $427,000. This means of all home sales that occurred this June, half sold for less than that amount and half sold above that amount. That's a median number. That's an increase of 1.7%. Something that I noticed that you guys should be aware as well is that 1 year ago, home prices based on the median sale price was flat compared to June of 2022. Now we have a small gain up by 1.7%. So it's higher compared to last year's year-over-year numbers, but actually trending downwards because back in February, for example, the year-over-year change was up by 5.1%. Now it's only 1.7% increase. So if you're a home buyer looking to buy a house in Florida, it's great to see that home prices only increased by 1.7%, which is actually a little bit less than long-term historical averages when home prices tend to increase in the range of 3 to 5%. However, though, what is concerning though, if you guys have been waiting to buy a house or you've been renting ever since 2020, is look at this. Back in June of 2020, the median sale price was only $282,000. This means we have a big increase over the past 4 years, up by a whopping 51%. can you say a lack of housing affordability, to say the least. So not only did prices increase by 51% compared to June of 2020, also average 30-year fixed rates also doubled as well. Back then, again, we were looking at around 3%. And right now, at the time of filming this video, which is in mid-August, the average 30-year fixed rate is actually just below 7% right now. So home buyers are kind of facing this double whammy regarding increases in prices and also a huge increase in rates as well. But it is good news to see we have a big increase in the amount of houses for sale, which I'll talk about that here in just a little bit. Before that, let's have a look at the sale price to the original list price received, which let me just kind of explain this. Back in June this year, that ratio was at 96.5%. This means on average for all the houses that sold in Florida, again, only looking at single family houses, they sold for 3.5 percentage points less than the seller's original asking price. Last year this time, that ratio was at 97.5%, meaning houses selling about only 2.5 percentage points less than asking. So right now, houses on average selling a little bit less than last year's levels. I did some digging for you guys as well, looking at the report, looking at 2016 through 2020 though. A ratio of around 96.5% is on par looking at pre-COVID levels. So for example, it was at 96.8% back in June of 2019. Let's also have a look at how fast or how slow houses are selling. So right now, the median time to contract, this means you list your home for sale, and then when you accept an offer from a home buyer, on average, that's at 95 days. That's an increase of about 35% compared to a year ago, when back then, days in the market was at 26 days. So therefore, this means that houses on average are taking about 9 days slower to sell compared to 12 months ago. However, though, it's still faster compared to June of 2019 though, because right now it's at 35 days. Back in June 2019, it was at 39 days. So right now they're taking about 4 days faster to sell, even though they're taking about 9 days slower compared to June of 2023. Also, just for fun, looking at 2021 and 22, let's look at June of 2021. Days in the market was less than 10 days. Now it's at 35 days. We basically saw a huge increase back in 2022. Days in the market back in June of that year was around 10 days, then increased to about 45 days or 43 days back in February of 2023. All right, we talked about closed home sales. Let's have a look at new pending home sales, a future indicator of closed home sales in the coming months. These are based on offers being accepted between buyers and sellers. There was just over 23,000 new pending home sales. That's down by 2.3% year over year. Now that may not sound like a big movement, only down by 2.3%. But again, I did some digging for you guys, looking at the report back in June of 2020, going back through January of 2016. Looking at that, at 23,233, that's the fewest amount of pending home sales for the month of June since at least June of 2016. Again, this implies we're going to see a, I wouldn't say relatively low level, I would say a very low level of closed home sales in the coming months. And again, in June, we already have the fewest amount of closed home sales for the month of June since at least 2016. And now we're decreasing yet again, down by 2.3% year over year. So therefore, closed home sales will likely remain very, very low in the next coming months. And this, of course, is all supporting the growth rate of inventory levels as houses take longer to sell and new listings hit the market. That all increases housing inventory, which is already at extremely high levels right now. Here's what we also know as well, because the number of new listings has been increasing as well, up by 6% year over year. There was around 31,000 new listings this June. Looking at long-term averages, looking at June 2016 to around June 2019, it's actually normal to have around 30,000 new listings. So we're basically on par with pre-COVID levels, but still up compared to last year though. This, by the way, is quite a turnaround compared to June last year, Back then, we saw a 27% decrease in the number of new listings. Now we're up by 6%. All right, this is where it gets really spicy here because active listing, basically the number of houses for sale right now, is up by a whopping 60.1%. There's approximately 96,765 single-family houses in the state of Florida that are for sale right now. This is the highest amount in any month since March of 2019. Basically, we're at a 5.5-year high regarding inventory levels. So big picture, even though inventory is basically at a 5.5-year high, closed home sales and pending home sales for the month of June is at the lowest levels since at least June of 2016. So we're seeing inventory rising greatly, up by 60%, yet we're seeing sales basically being in the gutter at the lowest levels for the month of June since at least 2016. Let's have a look at a chart going back to January of 2020, which is below here, at very close to 100,000 active listing inventory is way higher compared to any other month since at least January of 2020. Looking at the same chart in 2016 through 19, at around 100,000, just less than 100,000 active listings, that is actually the highest levels again since approximately March of 2019. Additionally, at approximately 97,000 houses for sale right now for the month of June, this is the highest levels for the month of June since at least 2016 as well. Back in June of 2016, there was actually around 95,000 homes for sale. In regards to the month supply right now is at 4.6 months, giant increase of 64.3% year over year, but also at 4.6 months. This is the highest of any month going back to at least January of 2016. So for example, back in June 19, the month supply was at 3.9 months. June 2020, 2.8 months. Right now at 4.6 months. I mean, it hasn't been this high in any other month since at least January of 2016. Also, just for fun, looking at 2021 and also the first part of 2022, the month supply was only basically 1 month. And now we're basically, approaching 5 times that amount right now at just under 5 months supply right now. Let's also have a look at closed home sales by price range. Every single price segment here has been a decrease compared to 1 year ago. So for example, homes that sold for over $1 million this June fell by 3.5% compared to June of 2023. That was actually the biggest or the smallest decrease, but the biggest decreases were actually in the more affordable range for less than $200,000. When looking at the number of new listings hitting the market by price range, the biggest increase is in the range of $600,000 to nearly $1 million. These are people listing their homes for sale by these price segments that changed compared to June 23. So we saw a 12% increase for that price range, whereas, for example, in contrast, homes that are being listed for less than $200,000 have decreased year over year. I should say, except for less than $50,000, there was only 41 new listings in that price segment, and that was a big increase, up by 58%. Let's also look at the number of property listings that are active by the end of June and how that compares to last June. So in the range of 200,000 to 250,000, we saw a giant increase, up by 74%. So 74% more homes for sale compared to June 2023, a big increase. And also, every single price segment has increased by double digits except for 50,000 to just less than $100,000. So my biggest takeaway regarding this is that we're not seeing this giant increase of only multi-million-dollar properties. It's basically across the board here, increasing by over 40% for homes listed for sale for over $150,000. Lastly, let's have a look at distressed home sales, which are defined by short sales and foreclosures, which basically are non-existent right now. So foreclosures and real estate owned properties, these are houses in which a lender has already foreclosed on a property and it's basically being listed for sale on the multiple listing service by a real estate agent for the bank, which is the lender that the homeowner had that got foreclosed on. So foreclosures and REOs, there was only 200 sales in June, and also only 27 short sales. A short sale is basically a homeowner who has a hardship. They can't pay their mortgage anymore. And they say, hey, I know I owe more on my loan than my home is worth. So let's just say their home is worth $200,000, but they have a loan at $250,000. So they're basically applying for asking their lender to, hey, I can't pay my payment anymore. I want to see if it's okay if I can sell my house and take on a loss, or the lender take on a loss and do a short sale rather than going through the lengthy and expensive foreclosure process. Anyways, that's in a nutshell what a short sale is. There's only 27. So there's basically only 227 distressed home sales in Florida. In contrast, nearly 23,000 traditional sales for the month of June. So a lack of transactions or closed home sales of foreclosures and short sales this June. And with that said, if you guys got any value out of today's video, then please hit the like button. Also consider subscribing as well. We're getting very, very close to 100,000 subscribers. And thank you all for your support. I appreciate you guys so much. Have an amazing day and look forward to seeing you on the next video.